Wei Lin was a tea seller in the small village of Longhua. He was 53 years old. Every morning he woke up when the sun rose. He made his bed and washed his face with cold water. His hands were rough from years of work. Wei lived alone in a small house at the edge of the village. His wife had died many years ago. His son and grandson lived in a house nearby. Wei pushed his wooden tea cart to the same spot every day. It was in the center of the marketplace. The cart was old, and the wheels made a squeaking sound. Wei knew every crack in the path. He knew every stone. The cart had been his father's before him. People in the village liked Wei. He was quiet but kind. He always remembered what tea each person liked. The farmers wanted strong tea. The women who sold vegetables wanted sweet tea. The old men who played games in the corner of the market wanted tea with special herbs. Wei made good money selling tea. Not a lot, but enough. He could buy food and sometimes small gifts for his grandson. The boy was 7 years old and the light of Wei's life. On Sundays, they would walk together to the hills. Wei would tell the boy stories about the spirits that lived in the mountains. The spirits protected the village. That is what Wei's father had told him. Life in Longhua was the same day after day. People farmed the land. They sold things at the market. They had festivals when the seasons changed. No one was very rich. No one was very poor. The government was far away in the big city. They'd mostly left the village alone. One day, Wei was making tea when he heard a sound. It was loud like thunder, but it did not stop. The ground shook a little. Wei's cups rattled on his cart. People looked up from what they were doing. Children stopped playing. Dogs began to bark. The noise got louder. It was coming from the road that led to the city. Wei saw dust rising. Then he saw big machines. They were yellow and black. They had huge wheels and metal arms. Behind the machines came trucks. The trucks were filled with men. The men wore yellow hats. The machines and trucks stopped at the edge of the village. The men got out. Some wore nice suits. They looked hot and uncomfortable. Some wore uniforms. They carried guns. Wei had never seen guns in the village before. An important-looking man walked to the center of the market. He held up his hands. People gathered around. Wei left his tea cart and moved closer. He wanted to hear what the man would say. The man spoke loudly. He said he was from the government. He said the hills around Longhua had special minerals in them. The minerals were worth a lot of money. The government had sold the rights to a mining company. The company would dig into the hills to get the minerals. The man said this was good news. The mining would bring jobs. It would bring money to Longhua. The village would become modern. People could buy nice things. Their children could go to better schools. Some villagers looked happy. They smiled and nodded. Others looked worried. The hills had always been there. The hills were part of their life. What would happen when men dug into them? Wei felt something cold in his stomach. The stories about spirits in the hills were just stories. He knew that, but he also knew that the hills gave them clean water. The hills gave them good soil. The hills protected them from strong winds. What would happen if the hills were damaged? He looked at the men with guns. Their faces showed nothing. Wei went back to his tea cart. His hands shook as he poured tea for a customer. Life in Longhua was about to change. The mining company wasted no time. The day after they arrived, big machines started clearing land at the base of the largest hill. Trees that had stood for hundreds of years were cut down in minutes. The noise was terrible. Birds flew away in fear. Animals ran deep into the forest. Wei watched from his tea cart. He saw more trucks arrive. They'd brought metal buildings that were put up quickly. Men in yellow hats walked around giving orders. The men with guns stood at the edge of the work area. They made sure no one from the village came too close. At night, Wei could not sleep. The machines worked all night with bright lights. The noise never stopped. His grandson had bad dreams. The boy said the spirits in the hills were crying. Wei told him it was just a story. But in his heart, Wei wondered if the boy was right. A week after the mining started, the village leader called a meeting. The old man looked tired. His hand shook as he spoke. He said the mining company had given him papers. The papers said some people in the village had to move. Their houses were too close to the mining area. People began to shout. A woman cried. Her family had lived in the same house for 5 generations. How could she leave? Where would she go? The village leader had no answers. The papers were from the government. They had to obey. That night, some young men from the village tried to stop the machines. They stood in front of them and would not move. The men with guns came. They did not shoot, but they hit the young men with sticks. They tied their hands and took them away in a truck. No one had seen them since. The water in the village well began to taste strange. We noticed it when he made tea. It had a bitter taste. His customers complained. Why had to buy water from a town far away? It cost a lot of money. His tea cart made less money now. More people had to leave their homes. The mining grew bigger every day. Now there was a huge hole in the side of the hill. Trucks carried away rocks all day. At night, bright lights made the village seem like day. The noise never stopped. Wei saw the guard for the first time 2 weeks after the mining started. His name was Zheng. He was very tall with wide shoulders. His face never smiled. He wore a black uniform with shiny boots. He carried a gun on his hip. The other guards seemed afraid of him. Zheng began to come to the market every morning. He would walk slowly, looking at everything. People tried not to look at him. They feared his cold eyes. When he came to Wei's tea cart, he stopped. He looked at the tea. Without asking, he took a cup and drank. He did not say thank you. He did not pay. He put the cup down and walked away. Wei said nothing. What could he do? The next day, Zheng came again. Again, he took tea without asking or paying. This became a daily event. We noticed other changes in the village. People spoke more quietly now. They looked around before they said anything about the mining. No one wanted to be taken away like the young men. No one knew what had happened to them. The stream that ran through the village changed color. It had always been clear. Now it was brownish and smelled bad. Fish died. Children who swam in it got sick. Their skin turned red and itchy. Wei worried most about his grandson. The boy coughed at night. His eyes were red all the time. The local doctor said many children were sick. He said it was from the bad water and the dust from the mining. But he told Wei to tell no one he had said this. The doctor was afraid. Wei felt fear too. But under his fear was anger. The anger grew each day. Each time Zheng took tea without paying. Each time Wei heard his grandson cough. Each time he saw the brown water in the stream. The anger was like a fire inside him. 1 month after the mining started, Wei went to visit his old friend Chen. Chen was a teacher at the village school. They had been friends since they were boys. Chen was one of the few people in the village who had gone to university in the city. He knew many things. Wei and Chen sat in Chen's small garden. They drank tea that Wei had brought. Chen looked thin and tired. The school was close to the mining area. The noise made it hard to teach. Many children were too sick to come to class. Chen told Wei something very important. He had a friend who worked for the government in the city. The friend had sent Chen a letter. The letter said the mining company was breaking rules. They were using chemicals they should not use. They were not treating the waste properly. That was why the water was bad. The letter also said the company had paid money to government officials. That was why no one was stopping them. That was why the police had not come when the young men were taken away. Chen showed Wei a newspaper from the city. There was a small story about the mining in Longhua. The story said everything was good. The mining was helping the village. There were no problems. Chen said the newspaper owner was friends with the mining company boss. Wei felt his anger grow stronger. He asked Chen what they could do. Chen shook his head. The mining company was too powerful. The government was on their side. The village was small and poor. No one would help them. Wei went home feeling sad. He sat by his small window looking at the stars. In the distance, he could see the lights from the mining. He could hear the machines. He thought about his grandson who could not stop coughing. The next day was market day. More people came to the village on market days. Farmers brought vegetables and fruit to sell. People from other villages came to buy things. The market was busy and noisy in a good way. Wei was at his tea cart early. He made all kinds of tea. He was known for his special tea made with herbs from the hills. People said it made them feel better when they were sick. Wei had learned to make it from his father. In the afternoon, Wei saw something that made his heart beat faster. A man with a camera was walking through the market. He was taking pictures. He was writing in a small book. Wei knew he was not from the mining company. He did not look like a government person. When the man came near Wei's tea cart, Wei asked who he was. The man smiled. He said he worked for a big newspaper in the city. He was writing a story about villages where mining was happening. He wanted to know if the mining was good or bad for the villages. Wei looked around. Zheng the guard was not in the market. No one from the mining company was nearby. Wei took a deep breath. He told the man from the newspaper that the mining was very bad for Longhua. He told him about the water. He told him about the sick children. He told him about the people who had to leave their homes. He told him about the young men who were taken away. The man wrote everything in his book. He seemed very interested. He asked Wei many questions. Wei answered them all. The man asked if he could take Wei's picture. Wei said yes. He stood proudly next to his tea cart while the man took his picture. When the man left, he gave Wei a card with his name and the name of the newspaper. He said his story would be in the newspaper in a few days. He said Wei should be careful. The mining company would not like people telling bad things about them. Wei felt scared, but also brave. He had told the truth. Maybe now someone would help the village. Maybe now things would change. He put the man's card in his pocket. He did not tell anyone about the man. It was better to be careful. That night Wei slept better than he had in weeks. He had done something. He was not just watching bad things happen. He was fighting back in his own small way. In his dreams, the spirits of the hills thanked him. 3 days after Wei talked to the newspaper man, there was trouble. Wei was making tea at his cart when he heard shouting. He looked up and saw Zheng the guard walking fast through the market. Zheng's face was red with anger. 2 other guards followed him. Zheng was holding a newspaper. He was showing it to people and shouting. Wei could not hear what he was saying. Wei's heart beat fast. He knew what was in the newspaper. It was the story about the mining and the village. Wei thought about running away. But where would he go? His home was here. His family was here. He stood at his tea cart and waited. Soon Zheng would come to him. Zheng saw Wei and walked straight to the tea cart. He threw the newspaper on the cart. There on the front page was a picture of Wei. Above it was a big headline. It said VILAGTASLER. He as out against illegal mining. The story told everything Wei had told the newspaper man. It said the mining company was breaking laws. It said government officials had been paid to look away. It said the people of Longhua were suffering. Zheng's face was very close to Wei's face. Wei could smell his breath. Zheng asked if Wei had talked to the newspaper man. Wei did not answer. Zheng hit the tea cart with his fist. Cups fell and broke. Tea spilled. People in the market stopped and stared. Zheng said Wei was a troublemaker. He said Wei was telling lies about the mining company. He said Wei would be sorry. The other guards stood behind Zheng. Their hands were on their guns. Wei felt fear like cold water in his body. But he also felt something else. He felt proud. He had told the truth, and now many people would know it. He stood up straight and looked Zheng in the eyes. He said he had told the newspaper man the truth. The mining was making people sick. The mining was destroying the village. Zheng raised his hand to hit Wei. But then someone shouted. Everyone looked up. More people were coming into the market. They were from the city. They had cameras and microphones. They were from television stations and more newspapers. The newspaper story had made other news people interested. They had come to Longwood to see for themselves. They were taking pictures of everything. They were talking to people in the market. Zhang dropped his hand. He looked at the news people. He looked at Wei. His eyes were full of hate. He said very quietly that Wei would pay for this. Then he turned and walked away fast. The other guards followed him. Wei's legs felt weak. He sat down on his small stool. People from the market came to him. They helped him clean up the broken cups. They told him he was brave. Some looked scared. They said the mining company would be very angry. The news people found Wei. They asked him many questions. They took his picture. They took pictures of the mining in the distance. They took pictures of the brown stream. They talked to other people in the village. Some people were afraid to talk. Some told their stories. They showed the news people their sick children. They showed them the bad water. They showed them the houses that people had to leave. That evening more people came to the village. They were from the government in the city. They said they had come to look at the mining. They said they would make sure everything was legal. They said they would help the village. We did not believe them. He had heard such promises before. But the news people were watching. The government people had to look like they were doing something. Wei went home late. He was very tired. He was also very worried. He had made powerful enemies. The mining company would want to hurt him. Zheng would want to hurt him. But he had also done something important. He had told the truth. He had made people listen. Maybe things would get better. Maybe his grandson would stop coughing. Maybe the water would become clean again. As Wei lay in bed that night, he heard a noise outside his house. He got up and looked out the window. In the moonlight, he saw Zheng standing there looking at his house. Wei stepped back from the window. His heart was beating very fast. Zheng was watching him. Zheng was waiting. The next few days were strange in Longwood. The mining stopped. The machines were quiet. Men in suits came and took water samples from the stream. They took soil samples from the ground. They talked to people about their sick children. But at night, Wei saw trucks leaving the mining area. They were carrying away things from the metal buildings. Wei thought the mining company was hiding evidence. They were taking away the bad chemicals before anyone could find them. The news people were still in the village. They were staying at the small guest house. They were making reports for television and newspapers. The story of Longwood was becoming famous in the whole country. Wei was becoming famous too. People from other villages came to see him. They wanted to drink tea made by the brave tea seller. They wanted to tell him about mining in their villages. They said he had given them courage to speak out too. Wei did not feel brave. He felt scared. Zheng was still in the village. Wei saw him watching from a distance. Sometimes Zheng followed Wei when he walked home. Sometimes Zheng stood outside Wei's house at night. Wei kept his doors locked. He told his son to keep the boy inside. One morning, Wei was making tea when an important-looking woman came to his cart. She wore a nice suit and carried a small bag. She said she was a lawyer from the city. She had come to help the village. She wanted to make the mining company pay for the damage they had done. The lawyer asked Wei many questions. She wrote down his answers. She asked if other people in the village would talk to her. Wei said he thought they would. Now that the story was in the news, they were less afraid. The lawyer said she needed proof that the mining company had broken laws. She needed proof that they had made people sick. She needed proof that they had paid government officials to look away. Wei thought hard. Then he remembered something. His friend Chen had a letter from his government friend. The letter talked about the mining company breaking rules. The letter talked about money paid to officials. Wei took the lawyer to Chen's house. Chen showed her the letter. She read it carefully. She said it was very important. It showed that people in the government knew about the problems but did nothing. She asked if she could keep the letter. Chen said yes. The lawyer told Wei and Chen that she would start a legal case against the mining company. She would try to make them stop mining forever. She would try to make them pay money to the village. She would try to make them clean up the damage they had done. Wei felt hope for the first time in weeks. Maybe they could win. Maybe the hills would be safe. Maybe the water would be clean again. Maybe the village could go back to the way it was before. But that night something bad happened. Wei was asleep when he heard a loud noise. He woke up and smelled smoke. He ran to the window. Chen's house was on fire. Flames were coming out of the windows. People were running to help. Wei ran outside and down the street to Chen's house. The fire was very big now. People were throwing water, but it did not help much. Wei could not see Chen anywhere. He asked if anyone had seen him come out. No one had. When the fire was finally out, they found Chen inside. He had died from the smoke. The house was completely destroyed. Everything in it was burned, including the letter from his government friend. The police came. They said the fire was an accident. Chen had fallen asleep with a candle burning. But Wei knew better. He had seen Chen that afternoon. Chen never used candles. He had electric lights. And Chen never smoked. Wei was sure the mining company had started the fire. They had killed Chen to destroy the letter. They wanted to stop the legal case before it started. They wanted to scare the village. It worked. People were very scared now. No one talked to the lawyer. No one talked to the news people. Everyone was afraid they would be next. The lawyer said she could not make a case without proof and without people willing to talk. She went back to the city. The news people left too. There was no more story to tell. The mining company said they would start mining again soon. They said they had found no problems. They said the water and soil were fine. They said the sick children had a normal illness. The government people agreed with them. Wei was alone again, but his anger was stronger than ever. Chen had been his friend since they were boys. Chen had been a good man. He did not deserve to die. Wei knew he had to do something. But what could one old tea seller do against a powerful mining company? 2 days after Chen died, Wei's grandson got very sick. The boy had been coughing for weeks. Now he had a high fever. His face was red. He could not eat. He cried from pain in his stomach. Wei and his son took the boy to the doctor. The doctor looked worried. He said many children in the village were very sick now. He said it was from the water. Even though people were not drinking from the stream or the well, many were still getting sick. The doctor thought the mining chemicals had gone deep into the ground. All the water was bad now. The doctor said the boy needed to go to the hospital in the city. He needed special medicine. Wei's son carried the boy home to get ready for the trip to the city. Wei went to his tea cart. He needed to get money for the hospital. He would sell tea all day. But when Wei got to the market, he found his tea cart broken. The wheels were smashed. The pots were broken. The tea was spilled on the ground. On the cart, someone had painted the word LIAR. We knew Zheng had done this. He looked around the market, but did not see the guard. People looked at Wei with sad eyes. No one came to help him. They were too afraid. Wei went home. He had some money saved. It would have to be enough for the hospital. He helped his son get the boy ready. They would take the bus to the city. The last bus left in 1 hour. As they walked to the bus stop, Wei felt someone watching. He turned and saw Zheng standing near a building. Zheng was smiling. It was not a nice smile. Wei walked faster. He was afraid Zheng would try to stop them from taking the boy to the hospital. At the bus stop, there was bad news. The last bus had already left. The driver had gone early. No more buses until morning. Wei's son began to cry. The boy needed help now. He could not wait until morning. An old man at the bus stop said he had a car. He would drive them to the city for money. Wei gave the man all the money he had saved. The man said he would get his car and come back for them. While they waited, a truck came down the road. It stopped at the bus stop. Zheng got out. 2 other guards were with him. Zhang said the old man would not be coming back. Zhang had told him not to help Wei. Zhang looked at the sick boy. He said it was too bad the boy was sick. But it was Wei's fault. Wei had caused trouble for the mining company. Now trouble had come to Wei's family. Wei felt something breaking inside him. His fear was gone. Only anger was left. He looked at his son holding the sick boy. He looked at Zhang's smiling face. Wei had been quiet and respectful his whole life. He had followed rules. He had not made trouble. But now trouble had found him anyway. Wei stepped closer to Zhang. He told Zhang to take them to the hospital in the mining company truck. Zhang laughed. He said why should he help the family of a troublemaker? He said Wei should have thought about his family before he talked to the newspaper man. Wei looked at the other guards. He asked them if they would let a child die because of adult problems. The guards looked down. They did not meet his eyes. They would not help. Something changed in Wei at that moment. Later he would say it was like a spirit entered his body. He was not himself. He was someone stronger, someone who was not afraid. Wei told his son to wait there. Wei would get help. Wei walked away from the bus stop. He walked toward the center of the village. The sun was setting. The market was empty. People were in their homes. Wei went to his broken tea cart. His best teapot was still there. It was made of clay. It was very old. It had been his father's and his grandfather's before that. By some luck it had not been broken. Wei picked up the pot. He still had tea leaves in his pocket. He always carried some. He went to the village well. The water was bad, but it would do. He made tea in the old way. He waited for it to be ready. The smell was good. It reminded him of better days. Wei carried the pot of tea carefully. He walked back to the bus stop. Zheng and the other guards were still there. They were talking and laughing. They did not see Wei coming. Wei's son saw him. His eyes got big. He did not understand what his father was doing. Why was he bringing tea at a time like this? Wei walked up to Zheng. Zheng turned and saw him. Zheng's face showed surprise. Wei held out the teapot. He told Zheng he had brought him tea. Wei said he was sorry for causing trouble. He said he wanted to make peace. Zheng looked suspicious, but he took the teapot. The other guards watched. Wei poured tea into a cup. He offered it to Zheng. Zheng took the cup. He looked at the tea. He looked at Wei. Wei said the tea was special. It was his best tea. It would bring good luck. It would bring peace between them. Zheng smiled. He thought Wei was being weak. He thought Wei was begging. Zheng shouted in pain and surprise. The tea was very hot. It soaked through his boots. It burned his feet. He jumped back and almost fell. The other guards did not know what to do. They had never seen anyone attack Zheng before. Wei stood very still. His face showed no fear. He looked directly into Zheng's eyes. He spoke in a loud, clear voice. He said Zheng and the mining company were poisoning the village. They were making children sick. They had killed his friend Chen. They had broken his tea cart. They would not help a sick child get to the hospital. People were coming out of their houses now. They heard the shouting. They gathered in a circle around Wei and Zheng. They watched and listened. No one had ever spoken to Zheng like this before. Zheng's face was red with anger. He reached for his gun. The other guards did the same. Wei did not move. He kept talking. He said the mining company thought they could do anything they wanted. They thought no one would stop them. They thought money and guns made them powerful. Wei said there were things more powerful than money and guns. There was truth. There was right and wrong. There was the love of parents for their children. There was the love of people for their land. As Wei spoke, the ground under Zheng's feet began to make a strange sound. It was like something cracking. People looked down. Small lines were appearing in the dirt. The lines got bigger. They spread out from where Zheng was standing. Some people gasped. Some stepped back. They were afraid. Was it an earthquake? Was the ground going to open up and swallow them? Zhang looked down. He saw the cracks spreading around his feet. His face showed fear for the first time. He stepped back, but the cracks followed him. They were getting wider now. Small pieces of dirt fell into them. One of the other guards dropped his gun. He turned and ran. The second guard did the same. They were simple village men hired by the mining company. They believed in spirits and magic. They thought Wei had cursed the ground. Zhang was not so easy to scare. He raised his gun and pointed it at Wei. He said Wei had planned this somehow. Wei had put something in the ground. Wei was trying to trick everyone. Wei did not look at the gun. He kept his eyes on Zhang's face. He said it was not a trick. It was the land itself fighting back. The spirits in the hills were angry. The land would not let itself be destroyed. The village would not let its children be poisoned. More people were coming now. Almost the whole village was there. They stood behind Wei. They did not speak, but their presence was like a wall that weighs back. He was not alone anymore. Zhang looked at all the faces. For the first time he looked uncertain. He was one man with one gun. There were hundreds of villagers. And there was something happening to the ground beneath his feet. Wei spoke again. He said Zhang should leave the village and never come back. He said the mining company should leave too. They should take their machines and their chemicals. They should fill in the holes they had made in the hills. The cracks in the ground were very big now. They made a circle around Zhang. The circle was getting smaller. Zhang had to stand with his feet close together to stay on solid ground. Someone in the crowd shouted that the spirits were taking Zhang. Someone else shouted that he would fall into the underworld. The voices grew louder. The villagers were not afraid now. They were angry. Many had sick children. Many had lost their homes. They had been quiet for too long. Zhang looked at their faces. He saw something that scared him more than the cracks in the ground. He saw that they were not afraid of him anymore. He saw that they were ready to fight. Zhang put his gun away. He stepped carefully over the cracks. He pushed his way through the crowd. No one tried to stop him. They let him pass. He walked quickly toward the mining area. He did not look back. Wei watched him go. Then Wei turned to the crowd. He said they must take his grandson to the hospital now. Who would help? Many people stepped forward. One man had a truck. He said he would drive them to the city right away. As they put the sick boy in the truck, Wei looked at the ground where Zhang had been standing. The cracks were still there. People were looking at them and talking in low voices. Some said it was the angry spirits. Some said it was just dry ground that broke when Zhang jumped around. We did not know what had made the cracks. Maybe it was spirits. Maybe it was science. Maybe it was just luck. But he knew what the cracks meant. They meant the ground under the mining company was not as solid as it seemed. The company could be fought. The company could be beaten. Wei got into the truck with his son and grandson. As they drove toward the city, Wei looked back at the village. People were still standing where he had faced Zhang. They were talking excitedly. They were looking at the cracks in the ground. Something had changed in Longwood today. Fear had been replaced by hope. The doctors in the city hospital worked hard to help Wei's grandson. The boy was very sick. The doctors said he had been poisoned by chemicals in the water. They gave him medicine. They cleaned his blood with a special machine. They said he would get better, but it would take time. Wei stayed at the hospital with his son. They took turns sitting with the boy. On the second day, a woman came to see them. She wore a police uniform. She said she had heard about what happened in Longwood. She wanted to know more. Wei told her everything. He told her about the mining and the bad water. He told her about the sick children. He told her about Chen's death in the fire. He told her about his talk with the newspaper man. He told her about Zhang breaking his tea cart. He told her about pouring tea on Zhang's boots and the cracks in the ground. The policewoman wrote everything down. She seemed very interested. She asked many questions. She said she would talk to her boss. She said there would be an investigation. Wei did not have much hope. He had heard such promises before. But the next day, more police came. They took samples of the boy's blood. They asked the doctors many questions. They wrote down the answers. Later that day, Wei saw on the hospital television that there was a big story about Longwa. The police had gone to the village. They had arrested 2 men from the mining company. They were looking for Zheng, but he had disappeared. Wei was surprised. He had not expected the police to do anything. The mining company was powerful. They had paid government officials. Why would the police help now? That evening, the policewoman came back. She told Wei what had happened. The newspaper stories and television reports about Longwa had made many people angry. People in the city were worried about mining near their water. Important people in the government were worried too. They did not want trouble. They needed to show they were doing something. The policewoman said the mining company was in big trouble. The police had found proof that they were using illegal chemicals. They had found proof that they were dumping waste into the stream. They had found proof that they had started the fire that killed Chen. But most importantly, they had found proof that the company had paid bribes to government officials. This was a very serious crime. The company boss had been arrested. The officials who took money had been arrested too. There would be a big trial. The company would have to pay a lot of money. Wei could not believe it. Things were happening so fast. 3 days ago, he had been a simple tea seller afraid of Zheng. Now he was talking to police about a big trial. It did not seem real. The policewoman said Wei would need to tell his story at the trial. He would need to talk about everything he had seen. He would need to be brave. Wei said he would do it. He would tell the truth. That was all he had ever wanted to do. The next day, more visitors came to the hospital. They were from other villages where mining was happening. They had heard about Longwa. They wanted to tell their stories too. They said Wei had given them courage. One man was from a village near the sea. He said a factory was dumping chemicals into the water. Fish were dying. People who swam in the sea got sick. He wanted Wei to help him fight the factory. A woman was from a village in the mountains. She said a logging company was cutting down all the trees. Animals were losing their homes. The land was washing away when it rained. She wanted Wei to help her fight the logging company. Wei did not know what to say. He was just an old tea seller. He was not a lawyer or a politician. He had not planned to become a fighter against big companies. He had just wanted to protect his village and his grandson. But as he looked at the hopeful faces of the visitors, Wei knew he could not say no. He had found his voice. He had found his courage. He had to help others find theirs. Wei told the visitors he would help them. He would tell them what he had learned. He would go to their villages when his grandson was better. He would stand with them when they spoke truth to power. That night, Wei could not sleep. He stood by the window of the hospital room, looking at the city lights. His mind was full of new thoughts. His life had changed completely in just a few days. He was no longer just Wei the tea seller. He was becoming something else, something he did not yet understand. Wei and his son took the boy home 1 week later. The doctors said he would be fine now. The medicine had worked. The poison was gone from his body, but they said he should not drink the water in Longwa. They gave Wei bottles of clean water to take home. When they arrived at the village, Wei could not believe what he saw. There were police cars everywhere. There were government trucks. There were news vans. People in special suits were taking water samples from the stream. Others were digging in the ground near the mining area. The mining machines were not working. The men in yellow hats were gone. The metal buildings were empty. Yellow tape was around everything. Signs said no police investigation. Wei's neighbors ran to meet him. They all talked at once. They told him what had happened while he was gone. The police had come the day after Wei left. They had arrested 2 mining company men. But Zheng had run away. No one knew where he was. The police had found bad things at the mining site. They had found papers showing the company knew they were breaking laws. They had found papers showing they had paid money to government officials. They had found the chemicals that made people sick. The government had closed the mining. They said it would never open again. They said the company would have to clean everything up. They said the company would have to pay money to everyone in the village who got sick. Some important government people had come from the big city. They had made speeches. They had promised to help Longwa. They had promised that no more mining would happen in the hills. They had promised that the water would be made clean. We listened to all this with wonder. Could it be true? Had they really won? It seemed too good to believe. There had to be a catch. There had to be a problem they had not seen yet. But day after day, good things kept happening. Doctors came to check all the children. Clean water was brought in trucks. Men came to clean the stream. The mining machines were taken away. People said Y was a hero. They said he had saved the village. They came to his house with gifts. They helped him build a new tea cart. They wanted to hear his story again and again. We did not feel like a hero. He had just done what he had to do. He had just spoken the truth. He had just tried to protect his grandson and his village. Anyone would have done the same, but he knew that was not true. Not everyone would have been brave enough. 1 month after Y returned home, something strange happened. He was making tea at his new cart in the market. A woman he did not know came up to him. She was well dressed. She looked important. The woman said she worked for a big environmental group in the city. They had heard about what happened in Longwa. They had heard about Y. They wanted him to come work for them. Y was surprised. He was just a tea seller. He had never worked in a city. He had never worked for an environmental group. What could he do for them? The woman said Y had something special. He had courage. He knew how to speak truth to power. He knew how to make people listen. He could help other villages fight against companies that hurt the land and the people. We thought about it. He loved Longwa. He loved his tea cart. He loved his simple life. But he also knew there were many other villages with problems like Longwa had faced. Many other children were sick. Many other streams were dirty. We told the woman he would think about her offer. He needed to talk to his family. He needed to decide what was best for them. The woman gave him her card. She said she would come back in 1 week for his answer. That night, Wei sat with his son and grandson. They ate dinner together. The boy was healthy again. He laughed and played. Wei watched him with a full heart. He had almost lost this precious child. He had fought for him. He had won. But what about other children? What about other families? What about other villages? Who would fight for them? Wei's son said he had heard about the woman's offer. He said Wei should take it. Wei had found his purpose. Wei had found his strength. Wei should use it to help others. Wei was not sure. He was an old man. He liked quiet and peace. He liked his tea cart and his village. The city was big and noisy. The work would be hard. There would be powerful enemies. But as Wei looked at his grandson playing happily, he knew what he had to do. He had to make sure other children could play happily too. He had to make sure other villages could be safe. He had to make sure other tea sellers could live in peace. 1 week later, the woman came back. Wei told her he would work for her group. He would tell his story. He would help other villages. He would speak for those who could not speak for themselves.